The Last Lantern Keeper. In a forgotten village pressed between wild mountains and black rivers, there lived the Last Lantern Keeper. His name had long been swallowed by time, but the villagers called him simply the Keeper. He was old. How old? No one knew. His spine was bent like a branch under snow, his beard flowed to his waist, and his eyes shimmered like lantern light on water. Yet every evening, without fail, he would climb the stone steps that wound through the village, carrying the ancient lantern. The lantern itself was unlike any other. Forged from copper and bone, its glow was warm but strange, neither firelight nor electric gleam. It flickered with a pulse, as though alive. No one knew where it came from, not even the Keeper, though sometimes he would whisper to it when he thought no one was watching. He kept it hanging on a tall iron hook in the village square during the day, but at night, he carried it through the misty alleys and empty roads. It never needed oil. It never burned out. The villagers were superstitious people. They did not ask too many questions, only offering nods or soft greetings when the Keeper passed by. But they all knew that as long as the lantern burned, the village would remain untouched by the things that prowled the edges of the world. Children were warned not to stay out after dark. The light protects, their mothers would say while bolting the doors. The lantern sees what we do not. There were stories, of course. Whispers passed through generations like wind through pine. Some said the lantern had once been stolen from the mouth of the underworld, snatched by the first Keeper, who bargained with death itself. Others believed the light held a soul, an ancient one, kept awake by duty and sorrow. A few even claimed that the Keeper was not a man, but the light-given flesh, cursed to carry itself forever. No one remembered when the others left, when the second-to-last Keeper faded from history, but the villagers all agreed that the Keeper had always been there. Perhaps he had walked among them for centuries. Perhaps he had been there since the beginning. One winter night, as snow fell like ash and the stars vanished behind thick clouds, a stranger came to the village. He arrived on foot, boots soaked and eyes sharp, wrapped in a long coat that shimmered with frost. He introduced himself as Callan, a historian, or perhaps a thief of forgotten things. His voice was calm but carried the weight of distant thunder. "I've come to see the lantern," he said to the innkeeper, who stared at him with something between awe and dread. "You'd be better off not looking too close," the innkeeper muttered. "Things that look back don't always like being seen." But Callan was not the sort to be dissuaded by warnings. He spent the next day observing the Keeper from a distance, notebook in hand, drawing the lantern's silhouette again and again. That night, as the Keeper began his rounds, Callan followed. He kept to the shadows, moving silently as a fox, but the Keeper never turned around, never acknowledged him. The lantern, however, flickered oddly when Callan drew near, casting long twisted shadows that didn't match his form. Once, Callan thought he saw a second figure walking beside the Keeper, a child with hollow eyes, but when he blinked, it was gone. Callan returned to the inn pale and silent. He did not sleep. The next day, the lantern flickered less brightly. A chill set into the air that crept into the bones of the villagers. People grew nervous. They avoided the square, pulled their curtains closed early, and muttered prayers beneath their breath. On the third night, Callan waited in the square. When the Keeper came for the lantern, the historian stepped forward and blocked his path. "I must know," Callan said, voice steady but tight. "What power lives in this lantern? What does it guard against?" The Keeper stopped. His eyes, cloudy with age, locked onto Callan's. The air grew still. Even the snow paused, hanging like suspended breath. "It does not guard against," the Keeper said, voice low and brittle like cracking wood. "It holds within." Callan frowned. "What do you mean?" The Keeper looked up at the sky, at the moon half swallowed by storm. "Long ago, something slipped through. It was hungry, without form, without name. The lantern does not shine to light your way, it burns to contain. Each night I carry it so it remembers it is watched. So it dreams of fire instead of feeding." Callan took a step back. "Then why not destroy it? Would you break the glass of a cage when you do not know what's inside?" Callan had no answer. The Keeper lifted the lantern from its hook. For a moment, the square was bathed in a golden warmth, a comfort in the cold. But then the light twisted, dimmed, and sputtered before returning to its slow, pulsing glow. That night, the Keeper's walk was longer. He went not just through the village, but beyond, to the crumbling edge of the forest, to the old chapel ruins where even the birds no longer sang. Callan followed once more, though this time, at a distance so great he nearly lost sight. In the ruins, the keeper stopped. He placed the lantern on a broken altar. Around him, the shadows deepened unnaturally. The air buzzed. Something spoke, not in words, but in feeling. Cold. Hunger. Longing. Callan's skin crawled. The keeper spoke a single word in a forgotten tongue. The lantern flared. Something screamed, high and thin and full of emptiness. Then silence. The next morning, Callan left the village. He did not speak to anyone. He did not write another note in his journal. The days turned colder. The lantern burned slower. The keeper's steps grew heavier. He walked slower now, leaning on his staff more than before. People began to worry. They left warm bread by his door, but it was never eaten. Some tried to take up his path, to carry the lantern for a few minutes while he rested, but the light recoiled from them, dimming until the flame nearly vanished. One girl, brave and curious, followed him for an entire night. She returned with white hair and could no longer speak. Her eyes, once green, now shimmered like copper. One morning, the villagers awoke to find the lantern hanging alone on the square's iron hook. The keeper was gone. Fear bloomed like rot. Doors remained shut even in daylight. The elders argued what should be done, but no one dared touch the lantern. 3 nights passed. On the 4th, the lantern pulsed violently, like a heartbeat speeding toward death. The wind howled through the streets, whispering in voices too old to know. Lights inside homes flickered and went dark. Children wept in their beds. Dogs would not bark. And then, silence. When dawn came, the lantern still burned. But its glow had changed, duller, less alive. A boy approached it, shaking, and reached out. The flame brightened slightly. He pulled his hand back. Somewhere far beneath the earth, something shifted. Something that had been dreaming, stirred. And the mountains, the rivers, and the bones of the earth listened, waiting to see who would carry the light next. Of course, here's the 2,000-word continuation of ***, The Last Lantern Keeper *** with the same tone and style, no headings, no chapters, and still no ending. The boy who touched the lantern was named Elian. He was not a remarkable child by the standards of the village. His hair was always unkempt, and he had a habit of staring too long at things, be it birds perched on frozen rooftops or the curling of smoke from a chimney, as if listening to secrets others couldn't hear. His mother, a weaver, scolded him often for daydreaming, but Elian always returned to silence. It was not that he had no words, but that the world rarely offered questions worthy of answers. But now, after touching the lantern and feeling it stir in response, Elian felt something inside him shift, a new weight, a hush that echoed through his ribs like footsteps in a hollow house. The village elders met that evening, gathering in the longhouse at the top of the hill. They spoke in tight, nervous tones, their voices muffled by the snow outside and the weight of what had been left behind. "The keeper is gone," muttered the butcher, wringing his calloused hands. "And yet the light burns. It burns for the boy." "He's too young," said the schoolmaster. "Too wild in thought. We cannot entrust him with something that holds back the dark." "But it chose him," replied the oldest of them, Marin the blind. "The lantern does not answer to us. It sees something we do not. What if it sees wrong?" No one had an answer. Not one they dared speak aloud. Elian, meanwhile, sat by his window, watching the snow. It had begun falling again, heavy and thick. The lantern still hung in the square, alone and humming faintly. He could hear it, not with his ears, but with his bones. It whispered in sensations, in colors behind the eyelids, in dreams that came without warning. He did not sleep that night, nor the next. On the 3rd night, he approached it again. This time he did not touch it. He merely stood before it, letting its light coat his skin like golden mist. He could feel it pull toward him, leaning ever so slightly on its hook, like a pet recognizing its master. He whispered, "I don't know how to carry you." The flame swayed, then settled. That was the night the fog came. It rolled in just before dawn, thick as wool and twice as heavy. It drowned the village in silence. Roosters did not crow. Bells would not ring. Sound itself seemed afraid to rise. From the fog came shapes, not men, not beasts, but shadows stitched into the air, flowing between homes like liquid night. They did not speak. They only watched. And where their gaze lingered, frost spread. A child disappeared. Then a second. No door had opened, no window broken. They were simply gone. The villagers gathered in the square, trembling beneath the lantern's faint warmth. "It's weakening," cried the baker's wife. "The light is fading." "Because no one carries it," said Elian. They turned to him, many with panic in their eyes, some with blame. "You think you can do what the keeper did?" spat the butcher. Elian said nothing. He walked to the lantern. As his fingers wrapped around the curved handle, the fog recoiled. The shapes hissed, though no sound came from their mouths. The flames surged, and in that moment, Elian knew he could feel the old man's footsteps beneath his own. He could sense the path worn smooth by centuries of sacred pacing. His feet knew where to go, even if his heart did not. He walked through the square, down the narrow alleyways, past shuttered homes and snow-laden trees. The lantern flared with every step, casting strange shadows that seemed to burn holes in the fog. The shapes fled, but not far. They watched from the treetops, from cracks in the stone, waiting. Elian walked until sunrise. When he returned, the fog had thinned, the shadows had vanished, and the villagers waited in uneasy silence. He said nothing. He hung the lantern on its hook and went home. This became the new rhythm. Each night, Elian walked. At first, he was alone. Then, one by one, others began to follow from a distance, silent, respectful, afraid. They never came close, and he never acknowledged them. It was not performance. It was penance. But the lantern was changing. The light pulsed differently now, deeper, like a heartbeat grown older. The flame sometimes flickered blue, then red, then golden again. And in those moments, Elian saw things, brief, impossible visions. He saw vast empty deserts littered with black stone teeth. He saw cities carved into cliffs where people floated instead of walked. He saw a child without a face kneeling in a room filled with clocks, all ticking backwards. And in every vision, he saw the same door. A tall, thin rectangle of polished bone, set against an endless sky. And from the door, always, came a whisper. Asterisk, we are waking. Asterisk. He told no one. One night, as he passed the broken chapel ruins, the lantern flared so brightly that the moss-covered stones glowed green. Elian hesitated. Something in the lantern pulled. Not forward, but downward. He stepped into the chapel. At the center of the ruin was a circular well, long dry and sealed by a wooden cover. He had passed it many times before. This time, the cover was gone. Inside, only darkness. But the lantern's light reached deep, and something shimmered below. Elian knelt and listened. He heard breathing. Not his own. Not the wind. Something beneath the earth, vast and slow and dreaming. He stood quickly and left. The next morning, he returned with iron nails and chains and sealed the well shut. He said nothing to the villagers, but he stopped walking near the ruins after that. Others had begun to notice the change in him. His eyes no longer blinked often. His voice, when he used it, was quiet but carried farther than before. Birds landed near him and did not fly away. Dogs followed him at a distance but did not bark. The flame of the lantern mirrored his moods, calm when he was calm, wild when he was disturbed. On one occasion, a thief from another town snuck into the village during the night. He reached for the lantern, hoping to sell it to some collector in the city. He never left the square. In the morning, all that remained was a blackened mark on the snow and the sound of weeping in the wind. The villagers never questioned Elian again. Years passed. Elian grew, but not as others did. He did not age the same. His hair remained dark, his limbs strong, his eyes ever brighter. The elders died, the children grew, but Elian stayed. The lantern had chosen, and it had made its choice eternal. Sometimes travelers came, hearing stories of the flame that never died. They offered gold, books, promises of power. Elian never spoke to them. The lantern answered for him. Some returned home empty-handed. Others did not return at all. One spring, when the snow finally melted for a few weeks and green began to push through the cracks, a girl named Myra approached Elian. She was bold, curious, with a mind like fire and eyes that did not fear shadow. "Do you ever wonder what it wants?" she asked. Elian looked at her, surprised by the question. Most people asked what it asterisk was star. Few asked what it asterisk wanted star. He said, "Sometimes." "Does it speak to you?" "No, not in words." "Then how do you know?" He didn't answer. But that night, he dreamed again of the door. This time, it was open. From it came a wind that stripped the stars from the sky. He woke in cold sweat. The lantern was pulsing violently, swinging on its hook though no wind blew. Myra had disappeared. For 3 days, the village searched. No tracks, no signs, only a single black feather left on her pillow. Elian did not walk that night. Instead, he sat by the lantern until dawn, eyes wide, whispering things no one could hear. The fog returned the next week. Worse than before. Dense. Alive. The shapes came with it. Bolder now. They scraped the edges of buildings, their claws like teeth dragged across stone. One entered a house. The family inside was never found. Elian walked again, and the fog fled, but only barely. The lantern flickered harder with each night, its flame stuttering like a heart under strain. He went to the ruins. The well was open, chains broken, nails bent. From the hole, the whisper came louder. Asterisk, we are not dreaming anymore. Asterisk. Elian backed away. The next day, the villagers gathered in the square without being called. "You must do more," said a woman with ash in her hair. "The light is not enough." "We are dying," said an old man. "We have trusted the lantern, but the shadows have grown teeth." "Find the door," said a child with red string in her hair. "Close it." Elian stood in silence. The lantern trembled. That night, he walked past the ruins, beyond the forest, across the river. No one followed. The air grew colder the farther he went. Snow returned, though it was midsummer. Trees grew twisted and crooked. The stars above blinked out one by one. He walked for 3 days, resting only when his legs gave out. Then, in the middle of a field of stone, he saw at the door. Tall, pale, glowing with the same light as the lantern. It pulsed in rhythm with the flame. He approached. The door had no handle, no lock, only a whisper. "Asterisk, do you remember?" Asterisk. He reached out his hand. Behind the door, something stirred. Something ancient. Something hungry. Something patient. The lantern's flame surged, twisting into spirals of silver and red. Elian did not open the door, but he placed the lantern before it, and the door pulsed once, then stopped, and the world held its breath. Of course, here is the asterisk final 1,000-word continuation and conclusion asterisk to asterisk the last lantern keeper asterisk, seamlessly following the story in the same tone and style, with asterisk no headings, no chapters asterisk, and a satisfying ending. Elian stood before the door, heart thudding in rhythm with the pulsing light. The lantern had stilled now, its flame hovering inside like the last breath before sleep. For the first time in years, the whispering had stopped. Not even silence remained, just a vast, waiting stillness, as though the world itself paused to witness the decision being made. He stared at the lantern. It had always seemed alive. It had always carried secrets. Now, here at the edge of all things, Elian finally understood what it had truly been. A tether. A chain. A warning bell. And now, a question. Would he leave it here, as a seal, to keep the door shut for another century, or open the door and face what lay beyond? He turned and looked behind him. The land he had crossed was gone, swallowed by fog, by darkness. He could no longer see the river, nor the trees, nor even the stars. It was as if the lantern had lit the last island of light in an endless sea of night. The world was unraveling behind him. Then he heard it again, the breathing. Not from the door. From the lantern. Slow. Deep. Familiar. He stepped closer, peering into the glass. Within the flame, shadows danced. Not random, not chaotic, but deliberate. Shapes of memories, of old roads, of the keeper before him walking with quiet dignity through snow. Then more, glimpses of the other keepers, hundreds, thousands, different lands, different worlds. but always the same flame. The same duty. Each had passed the burden, not through ritual or inheritance, but through necessity. The lantern chose, and now, he was the last. But not for long. The whisper returned, barely audible, from beneath the stone, through the bone of the door. Asterisk, we are watching. We are listening. We are learning. Asterisk. Elian bent down, pressed his fingers to the cold earth beside the lantern. He whispered back, "You waited for someone to forget. But we didn't. We remembered." The lantern's flame grew. Softly. Slowly. But no longer pulsing with strain. It was steady now. Calm. A heartbeat not of fear, but of choice. The fog stirred behind him. Shapes were coming. Dozens of them. Tall and spindly, made of shadow and echo. Eyes like glass, mouths stitched shut, fingers like broken compasses. They circled, never crossing the light, but drawing closer. The flame surged once more. And this time, Elian lifted the lantern. Its light split the dark. The shapes recoiled, shrieking silently, dissolving like ash in wind. The fog screamed in a voice only the soul could hear. And the door creaked. Not open. Closed. Fully and utterly. It had been ajar all this time. Elian had not needed to seal it. He had needed to shut it. The lantern was not a lock. It was a hand to hold. A companion for the one brave enough to walk toward the fear and end it. The breathing stopped. The fog thinned, then scattered. The stone beneath his feet glowed with warmth, then faded. The shapes were gone. And in their place, grass grew. Green, real grass. For the first time in decades. He took one final breath in that place, then turned and walked back. The journey home took only one day. The way was clear, the trees alive, the stars returned. When he entered the village, the people were waiting. No one spoke. He simply walked to the square and placed the lantern, still warm, still glowing, back upon its hook. But it was different now. The flame no longer pulsed. It shimmered quietly, like a star resting on earth. Elian looked to the villagers. "It's closed," he said. Maren the blind, now in her final years, nodded. "For how long?" "A long time. Maybe forever." And with that, Elian turned and walked toward the forest path. No one stopped him. No one needed to. The lantern no longer needed a keeper. The children, for the first time in generations, played after dark. The doors of home stayed open longer. The fog did not return. But the villagers still lit candles at their windows. Not in fear, but in memory. They remembered the flame. The keeper. And the boy who became legend. The lantern remained in the square. Never touched again. Its light never dimmed.